So we had to change a battery there. I don't know how this the editing's going to work. It might be rather shoddy, but but we're just talking about how to you can't actually conceive of a fourth dimension. I think if it had a direction, it's actually inward, which is interesting because that's generally what all the ascended masters and they all say go within. That's where the truth is, and that may just be by analogy, but just as a two-dimensional slice of this world has no thickness, so it actually the three dimensions contains an infinite number of two-dimensional planes. Just as that is true for the third dimension actually is like an infinitely small slice of a larger fourth dimensional realm. It's hard for us to think of it that way, but that's really what it is.
I would say that anybody who wants to think through that, what that really means, I know it's an old book, but Flatland is really worth reading.
Okay.
Because it really does give you, it does a really nice job of saying if you were two-dimensional, what would a third dimension look like? And I think it certainly opened my eyes to a way of thinking that I had not seen before.
Yeah, it's a good way to stretch your imagination. Just like I was thinking about actually understanding reality is, and this is great that you brought up Bucky, because it is geometry. Number is the abstraction from which geometry arises, and all is number. I guess that's Pythagoras.
I think so.
And then from that arises geometry,
Right.
And the way to understand number is through geometry. So I highly recommend get out your compass and your ruler, and I mean I have now I have books full of scratches of compass drawings and trying to understand how tetrahedrons fit in spheres, and just the physical act of drawing it changes your perception of it and
without a doubt. I think once you start using a compass and you start to understand what you can actually draw with just a compass.
Oh yeah.
And you start actually doing the drawings. There's no substitute for actually doing the experiments.
Yes. Yeah.
All of the looking at other people's stuff doesn't do it.
Yeah, thought experiments are great, but but.
Well, I mean, I even think about the thing that, the geometric things that you've built out of magnets. Those are, those are just really extraordinary, and you can't help but learn by actually assembling them. Whoops.
It's okay. This one's unstable. This one is actually. I'm reading this book here, not finished, a very short book called Earth Grids. It's a little primer on it's called The Secret Patterns of Gaia's Sacred Sites, and so the geometry, understanding geometry actually is ultimately is how you understand consciousness, because my teacher Nassim Haramein is coming forth with a physics-based, very much rooted in sacred geometry, in the tetrahedral, octahedral array that he believes, and I believe, and I think is demonstrably a good candidate for how an infinite amount of energy or information or possibility can exist everywhere all the time and can manifest into discrete realities. So there's that would be like a very, so like how can every possibility exist? How can there be an infinite amount of energy, an infinite amount of matter, an infinite amount of anything? How can that be? And there is a geometry that actually allows that. So
I have a question for you, and it's kind of a naive question in a way. And that is, I know you and I know other people that we know in common who are just, we're drawn to geometry, we're drawn to numbers, we're drawn to the kind of the people who were drawn to those.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other people who just couldn't care less.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? That, if I just think about it in my family, I'm the only one of 3 children who has any interest at all.
Mm. Well, it is heady stuff. I don't know. It's I think it. I mean, that might be more a part of a discussion about your soul's journey.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't mean to take us down a rabbit trail.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I think it's a good question. I mean, maybe the question is it essential? Is it something that, in order to expand your possibilities, do you have to understand a geometric nature of reality? I don't know.
What I notice about the people who are drawn to that is this kind of compulsion, but enthusiasm, excitement, like we're on to something, we're getting to something, there's something, it's almost like it's a language of its own, and when you speak that language, and it's a language that's very, very compelling, but a lot of people just aren't tuned into that language, I guess.
Yeah, it's a certain proclivity. Of the 80 or so emissaries that Nassim has, and what Nassim teaches, what the physics he teaches is very geometry dense, and I would say probably less than a quarter of the students are. I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't want to put a solid number on it, but they're not all drawn to it, and I think it's important to have it as a reference and to understand. And actually, at the very heart of it, it has a very elegantly simple sort of basic premise, and if you're drawn to this, whatever this shift in consciousness is, whatever it is, wherever it's going, having some very rudimentary understanding about it is, I think, important. But that doesn't mean you need to sit around like for hours, like I do, drawing things and clicking magnets together and trying to count where the tetrahedrons are in relation to the octahedrons, and I don't think you need to do that. I mean, that's more like getting into the research of like, well, okay, so now we know the elegantly simplistic basis of it, and so now like where can I, with my imagination and my sort of natural sort of like just attention to detail and just liking to get into the nitty-gritty of okay, so what can I do with this, and where can I bring my understanding to? Where's the next level of understanding? Because obviously it builds up from something very, very, very simple, just a tetrahedron in a sphere, to something that's just like unbelievably complex, and they're in stages. So how can I get to the next level so I can see where the next level of connection is? And I don't know. Yeah, it's ultimately, that's interesting. Everybody is going to be drawn to. I think actually where that question leads is, you're here on this planet and you're experiencing whatever you're experiencing. You're learning whatever lessons you need to learn, or that you're attracting into you. But can I get to a place where all that's going on, but the where I'm laying my tracks to is that I'm taking responsibility for where my tracks are going, and what I'm creating while I do that is making everything more beautiful, more connected, more in some ways balanced, but I bring in the word generative because that's like not just not sustainable. Sustainable don't cut it.
Right.
What
right.
are you generating? What are you giving
Right.
back? And what does that look like? And you know, and that's, to me, if you're not creating beauty, you know, then if it ain't beautiful, it ain't generative, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
You
No,
know.
there's really something to that. I mean, beauty is, in a way, it's sort of the way you can tell whether something's right or not.
Yeah.
If it's not beautiful, there's probably more work to be done here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.